Life speaks. It speaks through struggles and success, through music and messages, the preconceived and the unexpected. Whether you are in the depths of the valley or in the midst of your mountaintop experience, everyone needs to be encouraged from time to time. Here we will share stories of strength and testimonies of triumph, verses of victory, observations, and information meant to touch the heart and uplift the soul, to keep you on your path of purpose with power and authority, to give you that extra word you might need to see you through, to let you know you matter and you are loved. This is Andrea L. Hines, and I'm your host for When Life Speaks, here on the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network. I am glad you accepted the invitation to join us tonight, and you know we've always got something you can grow from, so don't keep it to yourself. Start a watch party tonight. Share your comments as we go along. But right now, it's time to turn down the volume of life and get ready to receive so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Welcome, everybody. You have joined the broadcast of When Life Speaks, and I am your host, Andrea L. Hines. The work week is almost at a close, and I hope it has been productive for you, filled with joy and peace and prosperity and favor and increase, grace, and all manner of good things straight from God. I want to begin this broadcast with a message from Elder Cheryl McNeil. You know, we have been praying for Elder McNeil when she was looking for a kidney, and she got that kidney, and she wants to thank the WLS family for your well wishes and for all your prayers. Now, as you know, she had been experiencing some challenges since she received the kidney, but she said they've adjusted her medication. She is on the mend. She is doing well, and she just wanted to let you know how much she appreciates every prayer that has been prayed on her behalf. And we want to tell her how much we love her and how happy we are that she is improving with every passing day. And from time to time, we're going to update you on some of our prayer requests and let you know how folks are doing. But for tonight, well, it's time to talk. Have you ever been talking to a friend or a colleague and the conversation got so good to you that you wish other people could have been in on it? You know they would benefit from what was being said, but the moment passed and you weren't able to capture what was going on or repeat it with the same emphasis and impact. It was one of those you had to be there conversations, and sometimes you can't go back and effectively duplicate the dialogue or recreate what was way beyond simple rhetoric. Well, the other day, in the midst of talking to my friend and colleague, we cut our conversation short and decided to record an exchange so we could share our thoughts with you, unscripted and unrehearsed. Her name is Diane Hamilton. She is a vibrant lady originally from the Bronx with a smile that lights up a room. She is a speaker, an author, a certified life coach, and founder of Revitalize Coaching Systems, who, and I quote, helps professional women 35 and over who have survived various forms of abuse bust out of the fear box and boldly color outside the lines through empowerment courses of self-discovery and personal development. Her signature workshop, No More Boxes, No More Lines, is a life-changing experience for many who have had the opportunity to explore the kind of transparency that transforms. So tonight's format is a little different. Diane and I were discussing her upcoming speaking engagement. She will be at a conference in New York City on April 6th, the theme of which is living your best life. And we touched on some topics that I wanted you to hear. Life has been speaking to Diane in some amazing ways since her childhood, and tonight I wanted to give space and time for you to just listen to our conversation. Not a lot of music this evening. Tonight is talk time. So get comfortable and be ready to receive, because when we come back, I'll be talking with the revitalizer, Diane Hamilton. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here with me on When Life Speaks. You have joined this broadcast on the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network, and I am here with my friend and my colleague and this wonderful, wonderful lady named Diane Hamilton. Diane, you there?
Yes, I am. Hey, Ms. Hines.
Hey, we are excited. We are excited to have you listeners kind of peeking in, and I can't even say eavesdropping, but just being a part of a conversation, actually, that Diane and I were having the other day. Diane's going to be a part of a conference called Living Your Best Life, and we were talking about what that meant and some of the things that happen to us when we think about living our best life. And we had started off by, what was it we were talking about, Diane? Courage to confront. Yes. Courage to confront. But we realized we can't really start there, because one of the things that we find keeps us from having that courage or gets in the way of that courage is fear. And fear is a big part of what you talk about, isn't it, Diane?
Yes, it is. It's a huge part of what I talk about. I think that for me, fear stopped me from doing a lot of things because I was so consumed with what people thought. And even I think more than that, what I thought and how I felt about maybe things that might have happened in my past or things that I have done. So fear for me paralyzed me. I wouldn't move. I wouldn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And I think that fear paralyzes a lot of us. That fear for me, because of my past, things that I've been through, things that I experienced, I was ashamed. So I felt that fear was standing in front of me, and my past was in front of me saying, you better not move, you can't do this and you can't do that, because people are saying this and people are saying that. It was like a loud noise to me in my mind. It was so loud I couldn't hear God's voice saying, I birthed you to do this. I told you to do this. I got your back. I couldn't hear his voice. But more so, the fear was so loud, it drowned out what God was trying to tell me and the road that he was trying to put me on. So I wouldn't move. I wouldn't do anything because I was afraid. Like I said, it was my past that paralyzed me. I wouldn't move.
Tell me a little bit about that, Diane, and if you're comfortable in sharing with the listeners, because you mentioned shame, and I think shame is a lot of what feeds into fear for us sometimes. So can you share a little bit about your story and what happened with you as a child?
Sure. At the age of 5 years old, I was molested. I was raped. And that dictated most of my life. That's where the shame came. I felt shameful because I was molested, in the way that things happened, in the way that the people around me handled it. Even though he was taken care of, but the people that was in my circle that was close to me didn't take care of me. And when I look back and I think about it, they probably didn't really even know what to do. But I carried that for so many years. I was so shameful. I really didn't even want to have anything to do with that 5-year-old girl, because to me, she was used goods. She was no good to me. And I did not know how to deal with that. So I was fearful to step in and live my greatest life or my best life. I was afraid, and a lot of other things trickled down from that molestation.
How did you begin to come out of that? What was it that helped you begin to get to that point where the shame wasn't overriding everything else that was probably good in your life? How did you begin to come out of that?
Several things. I got a life coach. I got a life coach, and that right there was big for me. And I never forget that I told her, her name is Suzette Hinton. And I said to her, I'm afraid. And she said to me, fear is like the gum on the bottom of your shoe. And I was like, wow, I never thought about it like that. And I went and I looked it up. I started thinking about fear on the bottom of my shoe. I said, if I keep on walking, eventually that gum is going to fall off. It's going to be removed somehow. So that played a big part for me, because I started looking at fear a little bit different. I started looking at, if I keep on moving, the fear will get less and less and less. So instead of being paralyzed, I started looking at fear like a stop sign. You stop, you look both ways, and you keep on going. But I couldn't do it for a while. Yeah, so I also had to work on my mind. I had to lessen that loud voice of the fear speaking and taking over, and let that positive that you can do it, and the affirmations that I had to do. So I did a lot of work. And like I said, I had a life coach, and then I had another life coach when I get my certification, which was Tracy Mack, and she helped me with self-discovery. She didn't help me. She brought it to my attention, because I didn't even know that I needed that. So that helped a lot. And with looking at the fear with the gum on the bottom of my shoe and the self-discovery helped me bust right out of that fear box. And it was like a form of freedom. And I started looking at my life differently. And I started turning things around. So I started looking at that little girl, how important that she is in my life, how I need her in my life. And I started speaking to her and letting her know that it wasn't her fault. So whatever I thought, I turned it around. I did the opposite. When I felt like she was, I looked at it as used goods, I looked at it as best goods, and how her being in my life is making a huge, big difference, because, of course, we can't take a part of us and just leave it behind and just say, I'm just not going to deal with that, because that's what I did. But lo and behold, I needed her to help make me whole. I needed that little girl that was wounded. I needed to nurture her and love her, and that helped me with my fear. And I don't think that when it comes to fear, that once we get over a hurt or a fear, that it never comes back again. Like there's not something in our life again that the fear doesn't calm and that voice is not loud. So just practicing that when fear comes, what do? I take the tools that I was taught and I use them to get past it.
Diane, do you think that for most of us, fear is just like a wall that it's very difficult to come up against it. And I think sometimes that's the way that we feel, that we're coming up against this wall and that we just can't get around it. We can't get over it. We're not strong enough to go through it. So it just sort of builds around us and keeps us stuck and stagnant. Do you think that's what fear does to us sometimes? And shame?
Yes, I really do. And the sad thing about that is it's strong, and we do build it. We build it so high and so tall we can't see on the other side. But if we will not stop moving, all of that goes away, because the wall is actually never really there. It's something that we created, that fear allows us to create this wall, this imaginary wall. That's really, to me, not even there, but we don't know that because we allow fear to take over. Like I said, paralyzes us because we feel that is a wall there and there is something there, but actually it's not. Because if you keep on walking, what you thought was there is actually not. And when you get on that on the other side of the imaginary wall, you feel like, oh my God, I should have been did this a long time ago. Sometimes that's how I feel.
Let me ask you, you said something else, Diane, when you were talking about the noise and that loud voice of shame and all of that. I don't know who came up with this saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But because I just don't believe that is true. I think words hurt us a lot. Sometimes they are words that we speak over ourselves, and sometimes they are words that other people say to us. What do you do with that noise? What do you do when you are hearing people, and maybe this isn't something that you experienced? Did you have those times coming up where people who knew or people who were kind of a part of that circle, even if they didn't know, where you just felt like they were talking about you or discussing you? Did you go through any of that?
Never really went through that because that was a part of my life that I swept under the rug. I wouldn't deal with it.
Got you.
I didn't deal with it. I tried to act like it never happened, but I didn't realize that it really affected my life in many ways.
But did you fear it would come up? Did you fear exposure, that at some point somebody would find out?
I never really thought about that. I never really thought about if someone was to find out.
You just kept it buried?
I kept it buried. I didn't talk about it. I was so shamed. I was very shamed. It was, not going to say anything, even though, and the thing is when it happened, I told my cousin, and she said, oh, you better tell your mother, because I wasn't going to say anything to anybody. So once he got taken care of, and nobody after that said anything, so I didn't say anything, and I act like it never happened. But actually, it affected me a great deal, and I was very shamed, and I didn't realize how much it affected my life. I didn't realize how it dictated my life.
Now, you said that you had a life coach and that the coach helped you. So what was it? Because this has happened to you when you were 5. So what happened that made you get to a point of saying, you know what, I need some help. I need to deal with this. Was it an incident? Was it just time? Was it something that you wanted to do that this fear was keeping you from? What brought you to the point of saying, you know what, I need to do something about this?
It wasn't, I didn't even know that that's what it was. I know that I wanted to be a speaker. I always wanted to be a life coach, but I buried that. I just didn't really speak. But I started going into the avenue of speaking. So my coach was helping me through that process. And through the process of coaching me with speaking, all of those things came up because I came up. Not realizing that this was a fear of mine. Not realizing this was a shame of mine. Feeling when I started getting ready to speak and share my story, I was like, oh, okay, I got to tell this. What are people going to think about me? What are they going to say? Even though I've heard and know people that have gone through or been molested, and I believe that when things happen to you, you look at it different than when it happens to someone else.
Absolutely.
So I didn't want anyone to know, so I had to deal with that. My first fear was I'm afraid of speaking. But I didn't really know the bigger fear was to tell my story, to tell the truth about why my life went the way that it did. So,
Diane, do you think that with in the time and in the things that you have done, and because you have been speaking, you've been speaking a lot in various conferences and things like that. You speak at, I don't know whether you still do it, but I know that at one time, didn't you speak with or to a group, Dress for Success? Did you speak with them, those ladies?
Yes, I spoke with Dress for Success, I think probably about 2 years. For about 2 years I spoke with them. But the reason why I don't speak with them anymore right now is because I lost my husband. So when I lost my husband, that changed a lot. Like I couldn't get back in that space again. I spoke to them one time after that, but I couldn't get back in the space at that time. Not even realizing it, but I couldn't continue. But I love speaking to at Dress for Success. Yes.
Now, when you lost your husband, that been 2 years ago? Has it been 2 years, 1 year?
Yes, it's been 2 years. To December the 12th. Yeah, 2016.
And I know that we have dealt with grief on the program before with different people, but sometimes I know that they always say that everybody deals with grief in different ways. And I know you and I had a conversation because while grief is very difficult for the individual, I was sharing with you that grief is also difficult for the people who love you because we don't know what to do. We don't know how to help you. We don't know how to pull you from the places when you are really down. And we want to lift you up, we want you to feel better and all that. And it's a process, and it is time. But one thing that I appreciated so much in our relationship and when you lost your husband was when I had that conversation, I said to you, I need you to help me to help you. I need you to help me to know what to say and when to say it and how that's going to work for you and how that's going to help you.
I felt that at times when I might have been around, say I'd start crying or something's going, oh, it's okay, that I felt like I couldn't cry. I had to have this thing as everything is okay and I got it together. I'm fine. In actuality, I wasn't. I was hurting inside and I was breaking down inside, and I wasn't even being truthful with myself until I got home. I would cry, and I did need people to reach out to me, and I did need people to call. And sometime for me, going through that process, I just needed some time for people just to call You don't even have to ask. Just call. Just pick up the phone. How you doing? Especially in the quiet. And what I mean by that is when someone passes away, it's very noisy. The first month, 2 weeks to a month, is very noisy. People are always at your house. They're always calling. Really, 2 weeks, I'll say. But then after that, everybody thinks the same exact thing. I don't want to overwhelm her because I know that she has a lot of company. But guess what? Everybody says that. So nobody comes. So guess what it is? It's quiet. And that's when you need somebody the most. That's when you need the support. That's when you need people to pick up the phone and say, I'm just checking on you. Or how about if we just go for a walk? Or just say, how are you doing today?
And you know, Diane, for you, it's a little bit different too, because you're the revitalizer. You know, you are the person who brings everybody else up. You're the person that everybody looks to get them through and to have that energy that pulls them and pushes them at the same time to get to that place where they're living their best life, where they're on point, where they're walking and moving in their purpose. And now you're at a place where you can't turn that corner yourself. And it took you some time. Did it not?
Yes, it did. And I had to first come to the realization that I needed to own that. And I couldn't be everything to everybody or be there, not everything to everybody, but be the revitalizer. I had to grieve. I had to cry. I had to be angry. I had to be upset. I just had to be in that. I had to go through that process. But once I went through the process, not that I don't miss my husband now, I miss him tremendously. I miss him so much. But my life was turned upside down when he passed away. It was. But now I'm in the process of turning it upside right.
And I'm glad. I am glad for you, and I'm glad from everybody who is going to, who has in the past and who is getting ready to benefit from your story, benefit from No More Boxes, No More Lines, and benefit from this speaking engagement that you have coming up in April. But I want to ask you, Diane, what would be one of the biggest things that you would tell your listeners or the listeners tonight? I could say your listeners too, because your listeners are on this line as well. But what are some of the biggest things that you would want people to know about the importance of breaking out of that fear box and boldly coloring outside the lines? Tell us a little bit about that.
I was listening today. I heard Dr. Phil say, life is brief. Time is a thief. So staying in the fear box, time continues to move on. But once we cross over that fear, come out of that box, cross those lines, whatever the lines are in your life, it's a form of freedom. It's a part of you that you never thought that you could do or be. And it doesn't mean that you have to do this big old grand thing. Just getting on the other side, just feeling that freedom. It's a breath of fresh air. It's a breath of fresh air. But I love that phrase, life is brief. Time is a thief. We can't get time back, and we only get one life.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. And you know, living your best life looks different for everybody.
Mhm.
And sometimes people find their best life or is in doing something that is of service for somebody else. Sometimes it is being able to get into that mode and that path of self-discovery. For some people, it's peace. You know, I'm living my best life when I'm at peace. Some people are living their best life when they're moving 1,000 miles an hour and here, there, and everywhere, and touching lives and doing different things. But I think that when you talk about fear and how fear can paralyze you and the importance of getting over that, and I think that is the only way that we are able to confront and conquer. They always say that you can't conquer what you won't confront. And for you, it was confronting that shame and confronting, all of the things that surrounded that. And being able to say, you know what, I can be free of this, and I can be able to move on and move into what I believe, God wants me to do with my life. And that is to be able to speak to other people, to be able to encourage other people, and to be able to inspire them to come out of that fear box, don't you think?
Yes, and color boldly outside the lines. Color boldly outside the lines. I am just, as you was speaking, I was thinking, I said, there's so many people that don't get to say the reason why they was born. They don't know what that is. They just continue to go on with life, and they feel so unfulfilled. But just trying to find out what it is, and like you just said, fear holds us back. But just start slowly but surely every day tackling it and just coming right on out and get to the freedom, but just knowing the reason why you are here and the reason why you were born. I just feel good that I'm on the other side of that, and I know the reason why. And yes, I know, and I feel good, and I want to continue on doing what God has me to do, and that's speaking to His people. That's helping those women, those professional women that go to work every day and that have the quote-unquote perfect life, but they're broken inside. So when they walk, maybe only they could hear. It rattles. It sounds like broken glass inside because they are in pieces. So I help them become whole within inside themselves.
And that is done through self-discovery, which is not always easy. Not always easy. We talk about being transparent with other people, but a lot of times it's difficult for us to be transparent even with ourselves. They're just things that we don't want to admit. They're things that we don't want to face. They're things that we think belong to other people when we need to own them ourselves. We need to be able to be strong enough to say, you know what, I've got to do something about this. There's something about this I need to change. There's something about this that I need to discover within myself so that I am able to move forward.
I agree. Sometimes I go through that within myself. I do believe that everything begins and ends with us.
Yes.
So before you can look outside yourself, you got to look within yourself, because everything begins and ends with us. So it's times that I do look outside myself, and then I got to turn that mirror around and say, ho, you got to do some work. And I always feel that, I can say me, I'm work in progress all the time. And I'm glad that I continue to have to be work in progress, because I believe that once there's a completion, there's no more need for it. So I always want to be work in some way in my life to better it. But I do believe we have to be honest with ourselves, and sometimes that's really hard to do. Just admitting and just facing. Once again, here comes fear.
Yeah,
That's a fearful thing when you have to face that.
And when I always think about the selfies, because that a lot of that fear doesn't come from what other people are saying. A lot of that fear is coming from what we are saying, the self-talk that we have, that we impose on ourselves every day. I always say the most important conversation we ever have is the one that we have with ourselves. Because we're constantly, just like life is constantly speaking to us, we are constantly speaking to ourselves. And sometimes you need to, I like to think in terms of challenging us when we get up in the morning. What is the first thing you said about you when you got up in the morning? Were you just listening to the voices that, and I don't want to say the voices in your head that, sounds weird. Who is speaking to you right now? No, but the sounds of frustration that you have, the sounds that come when you're running over in your mind all the time, what you have to do and where you have to go and where you have to be and what you didn't finish yesterday. And I mean, it's just a constant barrage of things that we think about that we don't even realize we're thinking about, but a lot of times that's how the day starts. Now, if you're doing all of that before you even get up in the bed, by the time you get to the mirror, brush your teeth, do your shower, what are you saying about you when you look in that mirror? Are you allowing that fear to overtake you and all those other things to overtake you, or do you have a boldness that says, you know what, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to accomplish, this is why I'm here,
Yes. I have, in my bathroom, I have sticky notes on my mirror, and I'm going to read some of them to you that I say about me, that I am loved, I am wealthy, I am happy, I am peace, I am hope, and I speak about the things that I'm grateful for. I mean, there's other things that I speak, but those are the things that I say to myself in the morning when I get up. I used to do something before I go to bed at night. It's important to me, this help with fear, is to read something positive or listen to something positive every night to quiet the fear and to you can hear God talking to you more. But quiet that loudness to say that you can't do it. You're not worth it. You're not. So it quiets it. So when you're sleeping, you can sleep more peaceful and not have all of the day in your mind. So, but I have those things.
People don't pay attention to that a lot, but they tell you, be careful of what you watch before you go to bed and, crazy stuff on television, even the news. I know a lot of people who shut down the news. They just don't listen to it before they go to bed at night because there's so many disturbing things that are happening. And I have a friend who was a teacher, and she used to, and I think she was a teacher in middle school at the time, and she had her students begin to listen to classical music during class so that they would settle themselves, so that they could hear and they could learn better because they had that quiet time. They had to still all of the things. And life is speaking all the time. Oh, it is speaking all the time. And you have to get yourself sometimes in that posture of quiet to just settle everything down so that you are able to cope and deal and get to the point where you are on that best life track and can deal with the fear, can deal with confronting the things that you need to confront so that you can be the best you that you can be and be fulfilled. So, Diane, tell us a little bit about April 6th. What's going to be going on there? Tell us about the conference, what you got planned for the ladies and those who are coming to the conference in April.
Well, it's April the 6th. It's in New York City at the Pearl Studio in Manhattan. What I have is I'm going to do my signature speech, one of my signature speeches, No More Boxes, No More Lines. And all I can say and all I want to say is you have to be there. If you haven't heard me speak, No More Boxes, No More Lines, then you just have to be in the place. It is something, I don't want to say magical, but the audience dictates how the talk goes. How I speak, they dictate it, not even knowing that they dictate it. So it's I mean, what do you think, Ms. Hines? You think you've been to two of mine, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
When I did No More Boxes, No More Lines.
Yes, I have. And that is absolutely the truth. There's some things that you can recreate. It's like I was saying in the beginning of our talking together the other day, and for the life of me, I can't remember what we were saying, but it was so good. And we got to the point of saying, gee, we should have been recording this so we could share it. Yeah. But No More Boxes, No More Lines is that kind of message. It's different every time you go. It's different every time you hear it, because as Diane said, it is dictated by the people who are there and what their stories are and how their stories play out. So if you have never heard No More Boxes, No More Lines, or if you have heard it and think, oh, well, you know, I heard that in Raleigh, or I heard that in wherever you may have seen and heard Diane, and I don't need that again. Yeah, you do. Let me tell you, yes, you do. You may not think, but you do.
Yes, I always say
so
if
you know anybody in the New York City area, if you can get up there yourself, if you have time to be in the place, you do want to take advantage of it. I'm hoping Diane will do another one here, but we don't have that on the calendar just yet. So in April, if you have the opportunity to go. Be sure that you go. We have too much in us that needs to be shared with other people. And there's too much that God has allowed us to go through for the express purpose of being able to help someone else and being able to strengthen someone else. So when these doors open and these opportunities present themselves, we need to take advantage of it. We need to take advantage of it so that when life speaks, we can speak life. Diane, thank you for being with me today, and thank you for having this time and allowing this time for our listeners to kind of peek in a little bit and overhear our conversation going on. Is there anything in particular that you want to leave with the listeners before we go tonight?
First, I want to thank you, Ms. Hines, for allowing the listeners to listen on our conversation. So having me on the podcast, I'm very grateful for that. And I just want to say to the listeners, don't let fear paralyze you. Look at fear as a stop sign. Look both ways and keep on going. It's great on the other side.
Well, that's it for this evening. I think this is the first time that we've just had talk time here at When Life Speaks, and I hope you gained some insight from the conversation between Diane and myself as we talked about fear and grief and confronting and conquering things so that you can move past your past and grab hold to your future. I thank Diane for visiting with us and sharing with us. Now, I'm pretty sure she's going to be at the 1-year anniversary celebration for When Life Speaks. Now, I'm going to be there, and Diane is going to be there. Many of my previous guests are going to be there. So the question is, are you going to be there? I sure hope so. Mark it on your calendar, May 18th. That's a Saturday at 3 p.m. Details are on the way. Tickets will be available the first week of April. And if you'd like to be a vendor, I think there are a couple of spaces left. So be sure to send me a message or send an email to speaklifewithandrea@gmail.com. Now, I can't leave the air without telling God thank you and reminding you of Jeremiah 29:11 in the Message Bible, which says, I know what I'm doing. God is speaking, saying, I know what I'm doing. I have it all planned out. Plans to take care of you, not abandon you. Plans to give you the future you hope for. So always remember that word in the Word and be encouraged, because no matter what you've been through, God has it all planned out so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Good night, everybody. See you next week, 7 p.m. Thursday evening.
When Life Speaks was produced by Film Studios for the SIBN Network.